You know, Hannah, if there's one thing I really hate, just like a thing that's not really an issue in your day-to-day life, but just causes problems, unnecessary problems, it is a suburban Target parking lot.
Yes.
Because they are massive parking lots, somehow always filled, because people love Target.
I love Target.
I love Target too.
I'm not ashamed to admit it.
I agree. As this particular instance, I was headed to a Target. As per usual, this Target was very busy. I'm driving down an aisle. I'm like, oh, there's a spot up there. And then I get a little closer and a car just pulled in. I'm like, cool, whatever. I'll go around the corner. I see a car is exiting their spot. And I'm like, oh, great. I can take this one. So I put my blinker on, get ready to go. They pull out, start to drive away. I turn in. I didn't see a single car on the other side. And as I'm turning in, I then see a car approaching, like, from a distance with their blinker. And I was like, okay, they must have come up after, like, I already had claimed the spot. And I was like, okay, cool. So I get out of my car, start walking to Target. This person waited until I got out of my car to then drive up directly behind me, honk aggressively at me. And because I've spent many years getting honked at for various reasons, I did not react. I didn't turn around, didn't react, didn't have a reaction because I'm like, I don't care. Right. Like, sorry. There was literally a spot directly on the other side, another spot over. I could see 3 empty spots. I'm like, I just went around the side. You could do the same. It's not that big a deal. And I was like, whatever. I hope that you got it out of your system because people are like, some people get so petty with parking. Like, unnecessarily petty. And it wasn't an instance where, like, they were already there, ready to turn in. It was like, sorry, like, I turned first. I don't know what to tell you. You weren't there. Yeah, you weren't there. I didn't see you until I'd already turned, like, I was turning, and then I saw this car. And I was like, okay, well, you didn't claim it.
Right.
And I then go into Target. Yeah. And I'm just shopping. I'm just looking at, you know, the clothing. I'm looking at the sports bras, looking for some nice stuff to buy. And I just hear loudly, slightly away from me, this woman loudly talking about somebody stealing her spot, like incredibly loudly, where it was very clearly directed at me, because she clearly honked at me and said something along the lines of like if I've got my blinker on, babe, you can't take my spot, stuff like that. And I'm just like, come on, like, really? I think the reason she got upset is because I didn't react. I think she wanted to startle me, you know, and have some sort of reaction out of me, and I don't give a shit, so I really could care less. I'm just here to get my Brita filter, my essential oils for my humidifier, and my sports bra, and then go home. Like, I do not want to pick a fight with someone at a Target at, like, noon on a Saturday. Like, why? Why would I do this? So, but I was just like, all right, come on. Like, really? You really feel the need to be that petty that you need to, like, one, try to shame me by honking at me, and then, again, loudly, like, I don't know, make a scene.
Right, just because. Because
someone stole your, quote-unquote, stole your parking spot? Right. I don't know. I was just like, why? Why, Hannah? Why?
Good question.
I have a story. It didn't go as intense as this one, but one of the first times I spent a day with Audrey, a friend of the podcast, she was one of my first friends who had a license. So we went to a nearby shopping plaza, to the store, Parisian, as it once was called. It's no longer called that, but we were parking, and Audrey had pulled through a spot. Like, there were 2 open, so she pulled through, and this woman, like, came in like she was gonna turn in, and then just gave us the dirtiest look. Like, she was, like, so pissed off. And we're like, it was this thing, I was like, I didn't even see this person. Like, yeah. And she just, like, the dirtiest look. And we were like, this is fun. Yeah. Glad we're having a fun time.
Good times.
Being, like, aggressively, like, stared at. But anyway, I just wanted to share, probably one of the weirdest parking experiences I've had at Target, especially, but just in general, like, that happens, like, people, take people's spots, and you might get honked at or flipped off or whatever, but, like, that was, like, intensive. One, to follow me, wait until I got out of my car to follow me, to honk at me, and then to continue to loudly discuss it near me, clearly, like, seeing me in the store, and then so I was just like, Cool.
Yeah.
I hope she probably was having a bad day. I hope that helped her feel better. Right. I don't know. Like,
whatever.
I was like, I don't need to engage.
Yeah,
like, what do I get
I'm
out
not
of this?
about
Like
to
there's
fight.
nothing I'm going to say that will change her feelings or do anything to better
Right.
anyone. So.
You can't reason with people like that.
Exactly.
Yes. Best not to.
Best not to. Disengage.
Disengage whenever possible.
Always better to hesitate than to resuscitate, as Hannah once said.
And also better to disengage than to engage.
Yes. Hey, Hannah, what are you drinking on a nice night? A nice Winnipeg night like tonight?
A little, peach schnapps. Mm-hmm. What's it called? What's the drink called? Hold on. Please hold.
It is called a woo-woo.
A woo-woo. I love a good woo-woo. It's peach schnapps, cranberry juice, and Tito's vodka. Also known as Tito's.
Tito's, yes. Still waiting for that sponsorship.
We are. Also...
But Hannah, I correct me if you're wrong, but are you not drinking root beer?
Oh. I forgot. Root beer.
Root beer.
I'm drinking root beer because I do not drink alcohol. Only root beer.
Yeah, because we only know the worst little boys and girls only drink root beer.
Yes. Truly savages.
Root beer.
Root beer.
We really need you to know that we're drinking root beer.
Root beer.
And loudly enunciate that about 18 times.
One more time. Root beer.
In about a 5-minute span. Root beer. Welcome.
Welcome. I bet you're wondering.
What the fuck are you talking about?
This is Hannah.
This is co-host Alyssa.
And this is Research, Rank, Repeat. I bet you're wondering what's going on.
Yeah, I bet you were wondering. Because we are too.
Yes.
We're back with a series we started about a year ago called Disney Animated versus Live Action, where we compare the live action to the animated counterparts of Disney movies and then also rank the animated and the live action into their own separate categories.
Yes. Yeah, this is like an update. I guess not an update. It's a new episode, but it's like an addition.
Addition, yeah.
And this is something that we had come up with. There was a new movie that came out.
Yes.
So we're like, well, we'll do that, and then we'll do another animated and its live counterpart.
Right.
We're doing Alice in Wonderland.
Yes. Which was the next on our list.
Right. And we are just doing the first live action. I know there is...
Yes.
Technically two.
Technically there are two, but we have decided for the sake of our own sanity and just to keep it easy, we are solely just going to do the original, and I say that in quotes because Alice in Wonderland technically is kind of like a sequel to the animated film in a way.
And Pinocchio, which the live action just came out.
Yes, it came out late last year. Yeah. So technically Pinocchio is the first movie of our list.
Right.
Based on years. We're going chronologically by year. So we have to sneak that back in. Correct.
But yeah, so we have 4 movies.
We do.
Yeah, I mean, I think I enjoyed doing this series. I think it's interesting to... One, we haven't seen all the live-action movies.
Yeah, I've seen very few.
Right, and it's also interesting to see how they compare, or if one's better than the other.
Right, and how much is this movie made for money versus passion is really a great question I like to ask myself.
Yes. Yeah, once again, we have written our own summaries.
We have.
Gotten some backgrounds.
Yep. And as usual, we don't really love Disney as a company.
Right.
But we're here for a research time.
Yes.
Maybe not a good time or a long time, but...
Yeah. Sometimes a long time and not a good time.
That's true, too.
I think...
Yeah, we should get started.
I think we should start with Pinocchio,
since
it was technically the
first. And I believe you have the background for Pinocchio.
Yes, I did the animated Pinocchio.
Yes, and I did the live action.
Okay, so Pinocchio was rated G. Was released. Oh, I'm already starting out with the flubs. In 1940, runtime an hour 31 minutes, has a 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 99% on Metacritic, and it grossed $164 million. So Pinocchio is based off the 1883 Italian children's novel, The Adventures of Pinocchio, written by Carlo Collodi?
Sure.
It was the second animated feature film produced by Disney, and it was directed and produced by Ben Sharpstein and Hamilton Lusky. So at the time, the film was considered a groundbreaking achievement in the area of effects, animation, machinery, and incorporating natural elements into animated movies. It received critical acclaim and became the first animated feature to win a competitive Academy Award. It won 2 for Best Music Original Score and for Best Music Original Song for When You Wish Upon a Star.
Dreams do come true.
Not in this.
Yeah.
Not in this world.
Yeah.
So initially it was a box office bomb, mainly due to World War II. It cut off a lot of the European and Asian markets overseas. But it eventually made a profit in 1945. It was reissued, and that's when a lot of the money came in.
Yeah.
This movie was added to the National Film Registry in 1994. And it was actually supposed to be released after Bambi. So it was supposed to be the third feature film. But Bambi had delays due to issues with adopting the storyline and animating animals to look realistic. So they delayed Bambi. So a lot of work went into developing Pinocchio's character, both like characteristic-wise and appearance-wise. Went through a lot of different versions before they found the correct one they wanted.
Yeah, because the version from the book story looks absolutely nothing like Pinocchio from this film.
And also he's very, like, rude and, like, snotty.
He's a shit. He's a little shit.
So they wanted a more likable version. So Jiminy Cricket was originally written as a very minor character that Pinocchio squished and killed with a mallet and later returns as a ghost. But he was changed when they needed a character to be able to guide Pinocchio to make the right decisions. They decided to make that Jiminy Cricket. And Walt Disney decided to use celebrities as voice actors for this film, which was considered the first time an animated film had done that. So a lot of the people who were in this film were celebrities before, as opposed to just like voice actors, actresses. I have a summary.
Okay.
Pinocchio is a wooden toy who dreams of no longer having hardwood and becoming a real boy. After giving in to peer pressure, Pinocchio learns that falling in the wrong crowd will turn you into a real ass. He drinks beer, swallows copious amounts of cigarette smoke, and lies before learning how to care about others and make the right decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie's dark.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
I have not seen Pinocchio since I was, like, little.
So we had this on VHS.
Right.
I affectionately referred to Pinocchio as Yoki Yoki, as I could not say his full name as a child.
Hard
so I
name to
know
say.
we watched it, and I had some memories, but I agree it had been quite a while since I've seen this in full. And I remembered the Pleasure Island with the donkeys being, like,
terrifying,
scary, but, like, I don't know, it got worse.
It's really dark. There's a lot of, like, stuff that it came out in the 1940s.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
wouldn't fly nowadays, as we find out in the live action.
Well, my favorite is that there is a clock of a woman just spanking a bare-bottom child over and over and over. And I was like, what the fuck?
It makes a reappearance in the live action.
It sure does, but with corrections.
Yes.
Yeah. My comment was, who wouldn't want a clock with a woman bare-bottom spanking a child? Yeah.
I wrote, why is the scene of Jiminy trying to fall asleep with all the extra noise us at church camp?
Oh my god. I was like, how do you sleep with all those clocks and noises? There's no way.
Yeah. I also wrote, I don't remember the scene, but I wrote, did this man just light a match with his ass cheeks?
Yeah, when he hears the noise. Also, I love that the blue fairy comes in. They make all this noise. Jiminy and Pinocchio sing a whole song about his conscience. Everyone is asleep, and then they wake up, and they're like, what is that noise? And I'm like, how the fuck are you sleeping through this? Are you good?
Yeah, this movie is, like, it's kind of boring.
It is at times. It is at times boring.
In the middle, I like couldn't keep my attention.
I'm blanking on the name. It's the fox and the cat.
Yeah.
Hi, diddly. Yeah. The Swindler men.
Honest
John.
Honest John.
But anyway, Honest John. So it's after he comes back from being in the puppet show, and they are like trying to the coachmen with the devil face. That's terrifying too. When he leans in and it's just red devil energy, I was aghast a little bit. But they're like, we have to do a doctor's report, and he's just like sputtering nonsense, and that was really entertaining. I thought that scene was fun, and I like didn't remember it, so I was enjoying that. There are parts that are boring, certainly. I think, like you said in the background, what really works with this movie is like, I'm amazed at how technological, like in terms of animation, in terms of coloring, in terms of depth perception, there is a shot where Jiminy is hopping up to the store, and it like the screen like comes at you, like the forefront is like you can see the depth, and I really appreciate something that I did not notice as a child, but I really appreciate that they give a lot of shots of like looking at the world from Jiminy's point of view, like the camera angles and like making things look really big or really small, to show things from his perspective, that I thought was really well done. Especially even the part where they go underwater. I was like, that looks great for 1940.
I read some info on the background of that, and they said they spent a lot of time on the water animation, and it was considered like the template going forward on how to do water animation.
And like the Monstro stuff, like all of that animation looks like it looks really really good, and it's hard for me to be like, this came out 80 years, like over 80 years ago, and somehow like holds up. It's bizarre.
Somehow better than Ice Age animation.
And it's like, that's the thing, like I have a hard time with 3D, CGI and 3D animation, is that when it looks bad,
it looks really bad.
It looks bad.
Right.
But 2D always looks good.
You can kind of get away with more.
You can get away with more.
I agree.
So it is really interesting. Well, though I agree, it gets a little boring in the middle. It just looks amazing.
It does.
Genuinely.
It does. I agree with that. I think, too, the thing I appreciate about this movie, because I'll mention it in another movie, is that there's a good plot and there's like a solid story, and it's not just like random scenes. I think too that there's multiple characters are likable and become like people you root for, and even Pinocchio, like when he just keeps like messing up, you still find a way to root for him, because he's of his like innocence and because of his like naivete. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Naivete.
Why are you saying it like that?
Because that's how it's pronounced.
Naivete?
Yeah, naivete. You could pronounce it nativity?
No, like...
naivete.
Naiveness. His naiveness.
Okay, I think naivete is a real word. I'm pretty sure.
His naiveness makes him likable. It makes you want to root for him. And I think, like, Jiminy Cricket's, like, a good... almost could be considered, like, a main character.
Yeah.
Because he is really the focus. I know that a lot of the movies from his focus, and I know in, like, 2000 they released a movie that's, like, from Geppetto's point of view. Because a lot of this movie is from Jiminy Cricket's, like, view. And so, I think... in this movie, honestly, Geppetto's not really, like, a main character.
No.
As opposed to the live action.
Yeah.
But... he still is likable. And, like, the cat...
and they give him a lot in the very beginning.
Right.
Where, like, you establish him as a character when he's creating Pinocchio and, like, pretending to dance with him and stuff. Yeah.
I think they do a good job of establishing characters.
I think
early
so, too.
on.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I think overall, like, it's a pretty good movie. Yeah. Maybe just a little boring at parts. Yeah. But that's, like, my biggest gripe with it.
Did you have any favorites from this film?
Favorite character, I went with Jiminy Cricket.
I agree, I went with Jiminy as well.
I really just liked how he helped Pinocchio and guided him, and I just liked his perspective throughout the movie.
Yeah. He had a real thing for inanimate women objects, which was a little off-putting.
A little creepy, but...
it's a cricket and it's the 40s, so whatever.
If that's the worst
If
thing,
that's what he's into, that's what he's into, you know.
We
I'm
don't
not here to
shame
kink
him.
shame.
Right. Yeah, so he was my favorite. I think that favorite song I just went with because it's a classic, When You Wish Upon a Star.
Yeah. It is the Disney theme.
It's the Disney theme
like,
song.
every time a Disney movie plays, you get the opening of Cinderella's Castle with When You Wish Upon a Star. So
Did you say Cinderella's?
Cinderella's.
Oh.
I slurred a little.
I thought you said Cinderella's.
I slurred a little. Cinderella's Castle
with
When You Wish Upon a Star, the instrumental version.
Yes.
So, like, it is the theme to Disney. So it is iconic. It's an iconic
so I went
song.
with the iconic song.
I agree. I think that's the best song in the movie by far.
I didn't pick a favorite line for this movie.
I didn't have a favorite line, but I did think it was funny that when they were on Pleasure Island, the things that they determined, like, all the things you could wish for, cakes, pies, dill pickles, and ice cream.
Right.
And I was like, why are all of these desserts and dill pickles? Like, why is...
dill pickles?
I mean, I love dill pickles, but I was thrown off.
Yeah.
I was like, I had to, like, go back 10 seconds just to make sure I read that right. So that didn't have a favorite line, but I found that to be very interesting.
Okay. I think my favorite scene, I really liked, like, the opening scene after he paints Pinocchio when he's, like, dancing around.
Yeah.
And just, like, that whole sequence, because I think it does a good job of, like, establishing characters.
Yeah.
Which I liked.
I liked that scene as well, but the one I picked was the escape from Monstro. Just because the animation is so well done, and it's really not a lot of dialogue. It's very focused on, like, this, like, generally monstrous whale. The water and the way that it looks. It just, like, looks really well done. So I really enjoyed that part of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it for this one.
Yeah.
Now we move to the live action Pinocchio. This movie, I think it was rated G. I didn't grab the rating. Came out last year, 2022. A runtime of 1 hour and 5 minutes. This movie was directed by Rob...
That's right.
What?
You said 1 hour and 5 minutes.
Sorry, 105 minutes.
Oh.
Sorry, I just read that completely wrong. 105 minutes, which is 1 hour and 45 minutes. Sure. Whatever. I don't care. Hannah. It's directed by Robert Zemeckis. I don't know what he's done. I didn't bother to look it up. The script for this movie started in 2015, and then it was changed to a new writer in 2017 because they didn't like the original script and they wanted it to be different. Surprisingly, Hannah, in 1985, Jim Henson actually approached Disney about making a live-action Pinocchio with new songs and using puppets, and Disney said no, fuck off. And I am distraught, because Christmas Carol? Imagine that, but with Pinocchio. It'd be a great time.
Yeah.
Rizzo the rat being Pinocchio? Gonzo could be Pinocchio. But anyway, I was really disappointed when I read that Disney was like, nah, get your hands off Pinocchio. It's our IP, we own this. So for the live-action film, they had several new songs written, and they kept most of the original songs, but they did get rid of, I think, 2 of them. It was also only released on Disney Plus due to COVID-related reasons, even though this movie came out at the end of 2022, and technically, like, everything's in theaters again, so... Or, like, all the movies you want to be in theaters can be in theaters. No surprise there, you know. It's definitely not a sign of anything. So therefore, we don't have any insight into, like, box office numbers or, like, profits or losses or whatnot. So the week it released, it was the sixth most watched program across all platforms, which, sure, that's something. It has a 28% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 38 out of 100 on Metacritic. It was nominated for 6 Golden Raspberry Awards, including Worst Actor for Tom Hanks, Worst Movie, I think Worst Score. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't look at all the 6 awards. I thought just the merit of there being 6 awards was pretty significant. And just some quotes from some people who revealed just, okay, let me start over. And just some quotes that I pulled from people who reviewed this film. They said that it was, quote, visually dazzling but soulless, and, quote, it exists because it can.
Me.
All right, now it's time for my summary. Set in a green screen room with little to no, quote, live things, the remake of Disney's Pinocchio is sure to bore. Tom Hanks mumbles his way through songs. Jiminy is displeasing to the eye. And of course, you can't forget about the root beer. I can't think of a better way to spend an evening than listen to a small child sing cry Disney's theme song and stop to smell literal horseshit in the street.
You know, when I said that, I wished I would have had the live action so I could.
Yeah.
I was gonna make a joke about Castaway because
I thought about Castaway.
Because he gets cast away once again.
I was trying to find a way to work in Tom Hanks trying to relive his Castaway days, but I couldn't find a way to write that in.
When I tell you,
Hannah,
I woke up this morning to watch this movie.
I watched this last night.
When I heard Joseph Gordon-Levitt and his voice he chose for Jiminy Cricket, I said, "Oh no."
Yeah, Hannah. What happened? What happened? I have so many questions, Hannah. I am blown away. I am blown away at how poorly this movie is made. Sure, the CGI looks good, but here's my question, right? This is supposed to be a live action movie, right? That's what they're deeming these live action. Everything looked like a green screen room. We're flubbing today.
That's the second time you said that. You said it during your summary. I didn't want to stop you.
I'm having a hard time today. I don't know what's going on. Every single set piece looked like a green screen room with like a table thrown in, with like, here's a bench, here's a can of trash for me to throw on the ground for a seagull. The whole city was not real. Like, there were no real sets. There were no real, like, set pieces. It was just people walking around in what I assume is a giant blue screen or green screen room. Not even the puppets were real. They could have made real puppets, like, for the puppet show, but they're all fake. And it looks so wrong, because Pinocchio looks so distinctly different comparatively to all these other puppets that he smells horse shit in the street. He leans down and gets a big whiff of horse shit. Hannah. Tom Hanks tries to sing. He should have stopped. Once I was a boy.
I love how they kept the woman making the job, but they added a police officer.
They added a police officer to be like, and then they had to be like, hey, look at all our Disney movies we've turned into clocks.
Yeah. They also
cute?
were like
Aren't
very much like Hollywood. Like, you don't have to worry about paying taxes because you're not an actor. Like
Chris Pine.
Right.
That's your stage name.
They did a weird love story between Pinocchio and a wooden doll.
Yeah, a marionette puppet.
Yeah.
A French ballet dancer. The changes they decided to make, they didn't fully commit.
Right.
Because you have a bigger emphasis on Geppetto and his relationship with Pinocchio, and seemingly his relationship with a dead son and a dead wife, or a wife who left him.
Right.
But they don't really do anything with that.
Right.
Like, it's just like kind of like a flittering thought. Like, he's got a photo on his desk that somehow transfers his son's soul
into Pinocchio.
Quote unquote into Pinocchio, however you'd like to, view that. But then they like don't really build on that much.
They also changed the ending.
Yeah, where it's ambiguous.
With Geppetto being the one who they think is dead.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to go with the storyline of Tom Hanks, Geppetto, having lost a son already, I think it has more impact if you have Pinocchio be the one who they think is dead.
I agree.
Because then this man is yet again faced with potentially losing a son.
Also because, Hannah, you telling me I have to listen to a small child cry, like, squeaky voice sing the Disney theme song? I literally wrote, my ears, please God, make the child singing stop, please. Lifeless like Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Also, Pleasure Island.
Yeah.
let's talk about that. They gave Luke Evans a song, and that was fine. I enjoyed that one. It was,
Right.
It was cool. I was like, sure, this is fine. Then we get to Pleasure Island, and they heavy emphasis on the root beer.
Right.
They are not drinking beer.
Right.
It's root beer for the bad girls and boys. They only drink root beer. And that's it. And then they throw things through windows.
And they smash clocks, apparently.
They smash clocks. But it's like, why were there smoke monsters from Lost?
Yeah. I
like,
didn't understand that.
Why weren't they real people? Because in the movie, it's like, in the original, it's like real people selling donkeys to salt mines. And like, why are there smoke monsters on this island?
Right.
At least they got someone who could sing to play the Blue Fairy.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, that was a good part. The singing was really well done.
Yeah.
It was enjoyable.
That was actually my favorite.
That was my favorite
performance.
part. Yeah, my favorite performance.
I also think they didn't do the monster whale escape scene justice.
No.
Because they're inside the whale for like 2 seconds.
Yeah. I really did not like the scene of them catching up to Geppetto.
Yeah.
And then getting swallowed.
Right.
And then immediately, yeah. So it was very much not impactful.
Yeah.
Because I really thought it was, we didn't touch on this in our last one, but I thought it was funny how they go home and it's clear Geppetto's been gone because there's cobwebs.
Right.
And it's like, oh no, there's this note. He's inside a whale.
Right.
Like they sent the note from inside the whale to be like, I'm trapped in a whale. Monstro's got me. As they're like, oh no, we gotta save him. But in this movie, it's insinuating it's been a day.
It's all within one day.
It's all within one day. The problem I have with a lot of these live action movies, which is why I'm not excited for Lion King, which is why I'm nervous about Little Mermaid, is that in trying to make these animals look hyper realistic, you lose a lot of the animation's strengths, which is by giving them more expression. You can, yeah, because like the Honest John stuff was like very not, didn't impact the same way because you can't really do emotion super well, and like especially Jiminy's design was really unsettling. I didn't like looking at him.
Yeah, I also
for
think,
lack of a better word,
we talked about it with Dumbo how it lost the emotion when they did the live action.
Yeah,
I think they destroyed Jiminy's character.
I think so. Yeah,
in this movie,
just wasn't as good.
He wasn't as good.
I also didn't like that they tried to make Pinocchio way more moral than he's supposed to be because he's supposed to learn. But like when you go to Pleasure Island, he like. All he does is drink root beer, and that's it.
Right.
He doesn't smash anything. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't, because in the original movie, he's smoking. He's, like, playing pool. They're destroying things. Like, he's participating.
Right.
But in this one, they make a big deal to be like, I can't destroy a clock because it reminds me of my father.
Right.
And I'm going to sit with a root beer and do nothing else.
Right.
And, like, talk about how this isn't right. Like, I felt like that scene didn't play out the same way because it's, like... part of the story is him learning to like right from wrong, and
I would agree
that the original did.
Yeah,
and the added marionette stuff was fine.
That was okay.
It was fine. I don't think it was bad, but it didn't really like enhance the story that much.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hannah, oof. I hope this is the worst one. I hope this is the worst one, because this is bad.
Yeah.
This is why I hate these live action remakes.
Of that,
because it's like like they said it best, visually dazzling but soulless. Like it's just to make it because they can.
Because they can.
Because they can make it. Yeah. There's nothing different that warrants making this.
Right.
Like I would never choose this to watch.
Yeah.
And there also were 3 different Pinocchios released in the last year.
Right.
One certainly is only for a meme.
Right.
And the other by Guillermo del Toro, but,
right.
Choose a different one.
Right.
Please.
Yeah.
Do we just want to skip favorites? You got any favorites? I liked When You Wish Upon a Star by the Blue Fairy.
That's what I was going to say.
Best song.
The only line that I actually thought was funny is when they were in the water and he was like, after I got kicked out of school, and he's like, you got kicked out of school, just the way he said it.
Yeah.
Besides that, I don't really have anything I like.
Yeah.
The only, normally we do, like, recreation of a scene.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The only thing I really liked that I thought was okay was, like, the beginning sequence.
Yeah.
I thought that worked.
I thought the, like, creating the Pinocchio and dancing him around, I thought that worked well.
And I would say the animated is a lot better.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I would never recommend this movie. Like, honestly, don't watch it. Yeah, don't watch it. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Moving on. All right.
To better things.
Yes. And now we have Alice in Wonderland, the original, which was released in 1951. It's rated G, and it has a runtime of 75 minutes. So this movie is based on the Alice series of books by Lewis Carroll, which is one of the most well-known book series of all time, composed of many different books. So actually, this was the first movie that Disney wanted to make. Like, this is the movie he wanted to make. And he tried to make it in both the 30s and the 40s. And they were considering doing a combination of live action and animated together. But instead, they decided to go with Snow White. Also, they were deterred because Paramount had apparently done a live action film of Alice in 1933. And so they were like, okay, well, this just came out. Let's wait a time. And then the war happened. And as we discussed with Pinocchio and Dumbo and these ones, that they were, losing money. So they had to push things back. This movie had a ton of scripts. Like, it went through, several different scripts, and they actually wrote 30 potential songs for this movie, which is the most songs made for any Disney film. And I think there were 8 in the film, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah. I think that's how many there were. When this film was released, it was considered a failure. It did not do well. It originally had a bunch of negative reviews. Quoting someone who reviewed the film, abound in energy but utterly lacking in enchantment. Literary critics also had a problem with it, saying that it had Americanized the source. Some of the people associated with the film had said that they thought that there might have been too many cooks in the kitchen because there were 5 directors working on the film. However, in 1971, they started to release it in college campus theaters, and that was successful. And then, because of that success, they re-released it in theaters in 1974 with the, using the Jefferson Airplane White Rabbit song to kind of be hey, come see this movie, it's back in theaters. And it was a success. Much so that they did a re-release in theaters in 1981. So in 1974, it made $3.5 million alone, which was over the entire budget. The future in general was very kind to this movie, as it's now regarded one of the best Disney animated films. It has an 84% in Rotten Tomatoes, a 68% on Metacritic, and currently, in current day reviews, and is viewed a lot more favorably than it was when it was released. Based on one of the most popular books of all time, join Alice, a small child who daydreams her way down a rabbit hole into Wonderland. In this fantasy world full of creatures tripping on LSD, Alice will encounter plenty of colorful characters, songs, and whimsy as she tries to find a white rabbit who needs to work on his time management skills. Now, I think I know how you feel about this film, so I'll let you go first.
It's been a while since I've seen this movie. Again, like Pinocchio. I think that my biggest issue with the film is that I feel like there's a lack of solid storyline, where I feel like this movie is more jumping from scene to scene to character without a lot of story within that. I've read before that Alice is supposed to represent someone with schizophrenia, and that this is all instead of being a dream, this is her delusions. Yeah. I don't know if that's the case. But I
think it's for sure the author was on drugs.
Right.
At certain points while writing this. Yeah. The books in general,
I think, that, I don't know. It's hard for me because at times I liked it, but at times I just really struggled with, following the story because I didn't feel like there was a lot to follow.
Yeah.
That's what I would say overall.
Yeah. So this is we also had this on VHS as well, so watched it quite a bit, and I remember liking it when I was a kid. And I have actually seen this a few times over the past, 10 years or whatever, so it was a little fresher to me than Pinocchio.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really like this film.
Okay.
I think the disjointed nature works because of how chaotic this world is. Okay. And especially because the way the books are written are not necessarily, there are a lot more short segments.
Right.
That's, in general. And I don't love all the segments. But, I like the progression leading to, the finale of, the queen the Queen of Hearts and, you know, the trial,
Right.
where they bring back all the different kind of groups together. I think what I like about it is it's incredibly colorful, has a lot of, like, unique characters. I don't necessarily think that Alice in Wonderland has great music. I would agree. I think that is one of the points where it lacks.
It's a weak part of the movie.
I don't think it has any, like, a lot of those early Disney movies have at least one song that I'm like, oh, that's that movie. That is the song. Whereas Alice, I really, like, when I was trying to think of a favorite song, I had to, like, think about it. I was like, which one do I like most? Because I don't think they're, not necessarily bad, but I don't think they're amazing. And I have to wonder, because there were so many songs made for this film, that they, like, struggled.
Right.
Because I know they had to cut a lot of things. They had, like, wanted to do a scene with, like, the Jabberwocky, and they'd wanted to do other things. And, like, I think they even had recorded dialogue and then had to cut stuff. I can see, like, where the issues are with the film, but I don't know. I just find it, like, oddly charming in a way that I don't really have, like, a critique of. That I could be like, oh, this is amazing. Like, I'm just like, I just like it. I just like I like this green fat caterpillar with a hookah going, who are you?
I agree. I think the animation is cool. The colors are really cool. I have a little bit of an issue with the Queen. I don't think she's necessarily that strong of a villain.
No.
She's just not very, like, intimidating. There were definitely parts and segments of it I really liked. There were, like, lines that I thought were funny. And I think the side characters, like, worked. I just think, like, for me, the main issue was just, like, and maybe that's, like, a preference thing.
Yeah.
With just not having, like, as clear of a story.
Right.
But overall, I think it's still, like, a decent movie.
Yeah. Which is fair.
Yeah. All right. Do you have a favorite character?
Yeah. I really think Alice works in this movie really well, and she's, like, the driving force behind everything. A special shout out to that hookah caterpillar, though.
Yes.
He's pretty great.
Yes.
Just lounging, smoking, having a good time.
Yeah.
I think she, like, works because she's clearly, like, shown in the beginning that she's a daydreamer, that she's, you know, imaginative. And, you know, but she's a child, so she gets frustrated and she has issues and she cries, cry me a river, you know, drown the whole world.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I liked her character. I thought it worked.
Yeah, I went with Alice as well. Pretty much the reasons you said. I picked, for favorite song, I don't even know what the title of it is, but it was the Painting the Roses Red.
I think it's just called Painting the Roses Red, yeah.
I just thought it had, like, a nice vibe to it.
It has a nice
and
melody.
The scene worked.
Yeah, I picked two because I couldn't really pick between. One was the Painting the Roses Red, and then it's called Golden Afternoon. It's the Flowers song. I just like the melody of that one.
Yeah.
It's kind of a similar thing. Like, I like the vibe of that one.
Yeah. I did have a favorite line.
Okay.
There's the part where they're, like, introducing the Queen, and then they go, and the King, and one person just goes, hooray!
Just one person, yeah. Yeah, I really like this. I've said it multiple times throughout my life. Just this caterpillar just aggressively smoking, going, who are you? And because of that, it's my favorite.
Yes. Favorite scene. I like the scene where all the card guards are, like, out and they're, like, in the main yard area. I just, like, really like the scene where they all entered. Yeah. I thought it, like, worked really well, and I thought the animation was really cool. Yeah.
It's hard because, again, it being so segmented, there's a lot of, like, individualistic scenes. I really like the scene at, like, the Mad Hatter's, like, the birthday party. Yeah. Like, I think that one's fun. I think it's memorable. Mouse comes out of a cake. Or a cupcake or whatever. A teapot, I don't know. Mouse emerges. There's just a lot of chaos in that. Yeah. And I've always liked that. But I do agree, I do really like I like the concept and, like, design of these cards. Like, the way they walk and the way they move, I think is really interesting and works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Final film. We go into Alice in Wonderland live action. Rated PG, was released in 2010, is an hour and 52 minutes. Had a 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb, a 51% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 53% on Metacritic, and box office $1.2 billion.
It did really good in the box office. Yes. I remember. I don't think you saw it in theaters. No. I didn't, but I remember, like, everyone I knew was seeing it.
This was the first time I'd seen it.
Yeah.
Watching it now.
I had seen some of it before on television, but it was, like, 20 minutes, and it was in the middle, so...
So this film is directed by Tim Burton and written by Linda Wolverton. The movie began development in 2007 when Tim Burton was asked to direct 2 3D films for Disney, one being Alice in Wonderland, the other being a remake of Frankenweenie. They did a lot of pre-production and visual effects for the film. A majority of the time of this film was spent adding in CGI and all the after production stuff.
Yeah, does not surprise me.
So they filmed this in the United States and the United Kingdom. Film received mixed reviews. So it was praised for its visual style, costumes, musical score, performances, and special effects, but was criticized for its lack of narrative coherence. And it became the 5th highest grossing film during its theatrical run, the 2nd highest grossing film of 2010.
Yeah.
Do you have a guess on what the highest grossing film of 2010 was?
Avatar was either 2009 or 2010. Could be Avatar. It's about 2009 then. Okay. Harry Potter?
No. Harry Potter came out that year, but it was below.
Below?
It was Toy Story 3.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Toy Story 3 made a ton of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking at a list of all the movies that came out in 2010, and there's some, really strong contenders.
2010 was I remember that was, I think, the year
Inception.
I think that was the year they increased the Oscar nominations to be 10 instead of, whatever it was before.
So this movie received 3 nominations at the Golden Globes and 1 for Best Art Direction and Best Costume Design at the Academy Awards. Alice in Wonderland is credited with starting a trend of live-action fairy tale fantasy films, even though it was not the first of its kind.
Yeah.
So Tim Burton wanted to develop this story because he never felt an emotional tie to the book and said it was a girl wandering from one crazy character to another, and I never felt any real emotional connection. There were talks to develop this as a Broadway musical in 2013, but no further development had been made. And there is a sequel titled Alice in Wonderland Into the Looking Glass.
Yeah. Which I think one of the books is titled Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass. Yeah.
Senescence.
Senile. Old people. Got it.
Okay, and now for my summary. For the first time in the history of this podcast, we watch a Tim Burton film. When Alice decides she doesn't want to marry a typical white man, she runs away and accidentally falls down a magic hole. She enters Wonderland, where she meets Captain Jack Sparrow, Andy Sachs, Bellatrix Lestrange, and Snape Severus Snape. Together with a slew of characters, she must discover who she truly is and save her own made-up worlds. This is a superstar cast.
There are so many people in this film.
Yeah.
I forgot Anne Hathaway was in this film.
I know.
Until I saw her, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot she was in this. Yeah.
Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
Helen
Bonham Carter. Yeah. Which, although she is married to Tim Burton, so...
Right, but still.
Yeah, you know. She frequently appears. Same with Alan Rickman, again, appears. But I, heard him speak, and I was like, oh!
I know, I was like, is that Alan Rickman?
Yeah. There are a ton of people in this
very
film.
big cast.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a lot of trailers for the movie. Because we went to the movies a lot during that time.
Yes. And I remember people I knew talking about it.
Yes.
People I knew had seen it. I remember on YouTube, there were tons of videos showed up constantly. So I was, aware of it. Yeah. And I had definitely seen visual images. And I know I saw part of it on TV, not recently, but I don't know, sometime in the 2010s.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the first time I watched it. I think it's fine. I appreciate that it has a distinct visual style, although it's unsettling. The Tweedledee and Tweedledum. And I know it's the guy who's one of the hosts from Great British Bake Off.
Yeah, and he's he's from Bridesmaids.
And I can never remember what his name is. And I apologize to this man. Unsettling characters. It's hard to look at sometimes. Just some of that. But I appreciate, there's a couple things I appreciate. I appreciate that Tim Burton had a very direct, specific image that he wanted for this film, and I think he followed through. I think that he succeeded in taking an existing animated film for Disney and changing it into a new story, because we're not visiting Alice as a child, we're visiting her as a 19-year-old who's forgotten about this place and is having to, remember and, be brave and, find herself.
Yep.
But there's some I don't know. I just some things with the story. I just wasn't super into. And then Johnny Depp does a cringy dance at the end.
Yeah.
That I was like,
that was weird.
Why did we need this? But I liked the characterization of Alice. I thought Alice was really well done. I was invested in her as a character. They really wanted the Mad Hatter to be a person, which is fine. But I don't think that worked 100% of the time. But I think it's, like, overall, like, well done enough. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's the best live-action film I've seen, but I think it works. I think it, functions. With some of these, that's all we can really ask for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I liked that when we watched Dumbo live action, who Tim Burton also did.
Yeah.
We said that we wondered how much influence Disney had over him.
Right.
I felt like in this movie, it felt like he was able to do what he wanted to do.
Yes. The other thing I noticed is that we talked about this before we started recording. There was no songs.
Right.
Like, no musical songs.
Until the end.
Until the very end.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually really like this movie.
Yeah.
I think that... I think I like this movie because they have, like, a story, and I felt like the animated version lacked that. I really like the characterization of Alice. I actually really, really like what they did with Johnny Depp and the Mad Hatter. I really like the scenes between him and Alice. I will agree, some of the story and plot was a little bit, like, iffy.
Yeah, I wish Anne Hathaway had more to do.
Right.
I feel like that... I don't know if she's in the sequel. I'm
not
clearly
sure,
didn't see that. But I feel like she didn't really get a ton to work with. Yeah.
But yeah, I think overall, like, I was happy with it because it wasn't a direct recreation.
Yeah, decision
I
and
think
directive.
you can have success like that. And I think the other way to do success is what we saw with Cinderella, where you you recreate it, but you make everything, improve on everything, basically.
And you have a vision that works and is true to the film and, like, in the same spirit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I liked it in that regard. Yeah, but overall I thought it was, like, I enjoyed watching it. I was, like, engaged, so.
Yeah, those twins really were unsettling.
I kind of liked it, though, because
I didn't like it.
It reminded me of Tim Burton stuff.
Yeah, but I think because they were, I think if they were real people, like puppets
the CGI
or practical effects, I maybe would have been a little more lenient, but I don't know. I was off put.
Yeah. Oh, another thing I noted, there was a lot of eye shit, and I thought you were going to be upset about that. Because how much eye stuff they did.
No, Hannah. I think what I decided, because I watched it happen, I watched a mouse stab the Babadook?
I can't remember the name of it.
The dog thing.
Yes.
A mouse stabs it in the eye and pulls its eyeball out. And I think I, like, acknowledged that had happened, but I was like, it's all CGI. I didn't enjoy it. I think I chose to ignore it.
Okay.
More so, I don't know why eye things need to be in every movie.
They feel a need.
But I think because it was all CGI, it was less startled.
Oh. One thing, I feel like the end of this movie was really chaotic.
Yeah.
Because you have her return to... essentially, like, no time has passed, or a little bit of time has passed.
Well, because there's this huge battle where she slays the Jabberwocky.
No, I mean, like, after
first.
that.
Yeah, but it ends, the whole movie ends with chaos, like, in Wonderland.
So there's this battle, and then she goes back, and then she's, like, talking to everyone really quickly, and then she goes, like, off and, like, is like, I'm gonna go to China and trade. Yeah.
Could have used an extra, like, 5 minutes, maybe,
it felt
to
very rushed.
flush it out a little,
But anyways, yes.
I agree.
I think my favorite character, actually, is the Mad Hatter. I just really like... I like a lot of his scenes, a lot of the stuff he says, and, like, his... I don't exactly know what to, like, describe it as, but his, like... clearly he has some sort of, like, struggle with, like, mental...
Yeah.
something. And I liked how they went about that.
Like, when he's, like, in his, like, hat workshop at the castle... and is like, I think that scene did a good job of, like, displaying that,
But yes, so.
Yeah. I did enjoy the changes to that character, but I still think I like Alice's adult character, because I think they really fleshed out her personality and, like, you know, the fact that she's now, like, a young adult and is, like, you know, runs away from being married, basically, and... is about to marry a shitty man with digestive issues.
I said if anyone ever proposed to me like this, I would vomit.
Yeah, and like, you know, is basically like, is this all my life is kind of deal. And I liked that, yeah, we had more of a relationship with her parents and her sister, and I would still say she's my favorite in this film.
So for, like, best animated to live, a lot of it didn't really apply, but I wrote that I really liked how they reimagined the characters. I really liked the card guards in this movie as well.
I do too.
And I liked how they took the animated characters and made them, for the most part, how they made them into the live versions.
I think the one thing they kept pretty true is the beginning when she has to do the eat me, drink me, get the key from the table. But it's like, it's a little bit different because it's her revisiting the same thing. But I thought that scene was well done in being like, hey, this is the same way Alice entered in the animated film. Like, it is the same, but there's a little bit different.
Yeah. I didn't actually write down a favorite line.
Yeah, I didn't either. I didn't have a specific one. I liked the one line her dad told her that, when she's like, am I mad? And she's like, I think we're all a little mad.
Oh, he said... Yes, or probably, but all the best people are. And then she says that to the Mad Hatter.
Yeah, I liked that line. I thought was well done.
Yeah, I wrote for favorite scene. I really liked when Mad Hatter and Alice were. It was like nighttime. They were talking about like how if this was all a dream, and he was like, then I would be made up and all this stuff. I just really liked their interaction in that scene.
Yeah. I also really liked, just because I thought it was funny, when the queen is trying on all the hats.
Oh, yeah.
I really liked that they were all like, oh, you've never looked better. Right. And she's like, no, next. And then they're like, oh, this is the best hat. This is the hat for you.
I really like her as an actress. Yeah. And I liked the scene, too, where she walks in and she was like, did you eat my thing?
Did you eat my tart? Yeah.
And they're just like, no. And she just kept going and asking them.
Yeah. Just like, did you eat my tart?
Yeah.
No.
And then in terms of song, I just picked Avril Lavigne's song because there was no other choices.
There were no other songs, so Avril Lavigne gets the win for this one.
For the win.
Yeah. All right. You ready to add to our ranking list?
Yeah. I think maybe we start with animated.
Sure.
I think I might have gone first last time.
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I don't remember.
To clarify, we both ranked the animated the same, where we had... Cinderella's number 1, Dumbo is number 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
And same for live action.
Same for live action, yes.
Oh, am I going first?
Yeah.
Okay. So number 4, for animated, I still have Dumbo as last. I think Dumbo is an interesting film. Time is not kind to it in a lot of ways in terms of racism and animal cruelty and, you know, stuff like that. There's issues with the film. There's also a lot of clowns. I don't need to see that many clowns. I think it's a fine animated film. I think just comparing against the other 3, it still is my least favorite.
Yeah, I have Dumbo as number 4 as well. I just think it didn't do much for me in terms of a movie, and I just think that in terms of like a complete movie, I don't think it stacks up with the other 3.
Yeah. So number 3, I have Cinderella. And this one I like more. This one I think works. I like the music. I like the general story. I think that, however, there are parts of this film that just drag, that are pretty boring. And certainly when we discussed comparing these films, I think there are some issues with the animated film that are done better in the live action. So I have it as number 3.
Yeah, I had number 3 as Cinderella. I think my issue with Cinderella was that it was very boring to me, and they didn't develop a lot of characters. But I do think that in terms of like Cinderella, I think it's a more compelling story than Dumbo.
Yeah. So number 2, I have Pinocchio. I think Pinocchio is really well done. I think it's, regarded as one of the best Disney animated films and just animated films in general, solely for visual aspects. Like, I think it is a stunning visual experience through the animation and the depth perception and the songs. However, I just like one more film personally I like more.
Right. I went with number 2 being Alice in Wonderland. I think it's a solid movie. I just think the lack of the story plot to me is like what makes it not as good for me. But I think that it has strong characters and I like the animation and I think that Alice is a compelling character.
Yeah, so number 1 I have Alice in Wonderland. I just personally really like the story elements that I think when they work, they really, really work. And the characters are very interesting and unique and, like, designed in a way that is engaging and, like, colorful. And I think the one thing is that I never am bored during this movie. Because Pinocchio, I think, is really well done, but there are a few points that I find could be a little dull, little dragged on a little bit. Whereas like Alice in Wonderland, I didn't have any moments where I was like, I could be doing something else right now.
Yeah.
So.
Number one, I have Pinocchio. I think in terms of like a complete movie to me, like story, characters, animation, the animation's really good. I think to me it's like the number one. I agree though, it's a little bit drags and points. But I think, like, as a complete movie, it was the one that stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm. All right, to live action. Number 4, I have Pinocchio. What do I need? I don't even need to say anything. It sucks. Don't watch it. There's no reason this needed to be made. It's a money grab. There's nothing more to that.
Yeah, number 4 is Pinocchio. I said not even Tom Hanks could save this movie.
No, and he didn't even, he phoned it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, number 3, I have Dumbo. I think Dumbo suffers a lot. I think there are a lot of issues with the film that we went into in great depth. So if you want to hear our thoughts on Cinderella and Dumbo, go back and listen to our first episode. Some things work, some characters are interesting, but there's just so many problems that are not improved from the original film. Number 3.
So number 3, I have Dumbo as well. I think it was okay. I think I said before that I appreciated what they tried to do. I just don't think they executed it.
I agree.
So I think I appreciate them trying to, like, have creativity, but I also think Dumbo he's not the main character anymore, and he loses all the emotion, and it's hard to follow that story at that point.
Yeah, and so number 2, I have Alice in Wonderland, the live action. Of the 2 Tim Burton films on this list, this is clearly the better one. I think the characters are fleshed out a lot more from the animated film. I think it's interesting. It's certainly, like, they took risks that I think worked most of the time. It certainly had a vision and an art style that was a little unsettling to me at times, but I think worked because of this being like a fantasy world and like good characters and like good designs and even costumes that we didn't talk about really.
Yeah, the costumes.
Yeah, costumes were really, really, really good.
I see why they won like an award for it, because they were really good.
I think the costume design was really well done. So I think there were a lot of elements that worked. I just don't think it is the best.
Yeah, I have number 2, Alice in Wonderland. I really enjoyed the film. I enjoyed the cast. I think that it was, we never said if we liked the animated or the live action more.
I think I like the animated more.
Okay.
Just because I really like the animated film, but it's pretty close. Yeah, I think it's close.
I would give the live action a little bit of an edge because I think they improved on
a better story. Yeah.
Because that's what I was going to mention. I said that I think it improves off the film, and I think that there are little parts of it that don't really work for me, but I think that I like that they took this story and made it something different, and I think it worked for them. Yeah,
I agree. Number 1, it's still going to be Cinderella. It is going to be hard. It's going to be hard to top Cinderella because Cinderella works in all the ways that a live-action Disney movie should work. Yeah. It takes the original story, it stays true to the message, but it improves on things that the animated fails at. It gives the prince a character. Yeah. Stunning costume work. Yes. That dress is amazing. Beautiful. The way they gave more life to certain characters and improved on things that were done better. Yeah. Just genuinely were done better. Relationships and building chemistry and, interactions between characters. It's going to be very hard for any to beat this.
I would be really surprised if any of these movies top Cinderella.
It's going to be hard because we've seen Beauty and the Beast. Yeah. I've seen Aladdin. Yep. I've seen a few of them that, they made tons of money. Right. However, of the ones I've seen, I haven't seen one that has beaten this so far.
Yeah. I think Cinderella does a lot of what you said. I think character development is really good. Yeah. I think the chemistry was really good. I think they just, improved on every aspect of that movie.
Yeah. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about, Hannah, is since we did this episode, there have been some, they have announced some new live-action films that are going to be produced in the future. So, as we know, Little Mermaid is coming out later this year. Right. I am incredibly nervous. It could go horrible. It could be good. Yeah. I'm going to be... the problem is that Little Mermaid was probably my favorite Disney movie as a kid. I'm going to be incredibly critical. Peter Pan and Wendy which is based on Peter Pan.
Yeah.
We've had so many Peter Pan adaptations that it's going to be hard for something to stand out.
Right.
Because Hook is my preferred Peter Pan,
Yes.
to be honest. The animated's great too, but Hook, I think, does well. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is coming out in 2024. They're making Mufasa, the Lion King, live action, which is based, I would assume, a prequel to the Lion King. Hercules. This one, expectations. I have expectations, Hannah.
Yep. This could be really good.
This is how I feel about Hercules and how I feel about Hunchback, which has also been announced. Yes. These are both movies that could be very good or could be very bad. Now, the thing that I think is really interesting, the Hercules movie is being directed by Guy Ritchie, who has did Sherlock Holmes,
right.
Man from U.N.C.L.E. He's also done things that have not done well as well. I think he did Aladdin.
Right.
If I'm remembering correctly. But the Russo brothers are producing the film, which they've done a lot of great things as well.
Right.
There also is a sequel to the live-action Jungle Book.
Yep. There's
an untitled Cruella sequel, a Tinkerbell movie, Sword in the Stone, Robin Hood. We're getting an anthropomorphic live-action Robin Hood, which I'm not excited about. Yeah. There is another Aladdin movie, Bambi, The Aristocats, and Hannah, I think the one that I find the most interesting, Lilo and Stitch. Also terrified for that one. Yes. Because that could go horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Now, that is like 15 movies.
That's a lot.
That they have planned, announced. Not all of them have dates,
but have plans to do.
Which is, like, they will not stop. They're making sequels to sequels.
And they're also probably not going to stop until they make every movie.
Yeah. Except fucking Atlantis, Hannah.
Yeah.
Treasure Planet and Atlantis.
Maybe.
We're never going to get them.
Maybe one day.
Okay, how far do we have to go before they then start to live action their 3D movies?
Right, live action.
Based on the Pinocchio that came out this year,
right.
I have a lot of questions
and concerns
about a lot of these films. I think warranted.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
If we get to them.
We will, be back with more.
We'll keep trucking along. I think next on the docket, I think Sleeping Beauty's coming up.
Yeah.
And I think that there is maybe 101 Dalmatians as well. Which I never want to see that wooden puppet again in live action form.
Yeah.
Dear God. Hannah, that was hard. That was a hard one to get through.
It was.
I watched it yesterday and I was struggling.
Started my morning with it.
A great way to start your morning.
Always.
You love smelling that horse shit?
I do.
Drinking your root beer?
I do.
You drink 2 things of root beer. Bad child. Naughty. Get sold to the salt mine because you drank root beer. Oh boy. Please do better, Tom Hanks.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
You're done.
But if you want to follow us on social media, we have an Instagram, we have a Twitter, R3 Podcast, we have an email, r3podcast@gmail.com. If you have any suggestions, comments, critiques, if you've seen that Pinocchio or any of the Pinocchios and like to comment on them, feel free to do so.
Yeah.
And we'll be back later in the month for something else.
Bye.
Bye.
We would like to thank Joseph McDade for our intro music. He provides free music available for all kinds of creative use. The song that we used is called Sunrise Expedition, and you can find it and his other music on his website, josephmcdade.com. If you would like to reach us, you can email us at r3podcasts@gmail.com. That's R, the number 3, podcasts@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Instagram by searching Research Rank Repeat.
I think it's...
Sorry, I was trying to stop you. Okay, anyways.
It's okay. Joseph Gordon-Levitt only does like 1 movie every 5 years. Why did he choose this one?
I don't know.
I love that I think his 2 acting credits in 2022 were The Gong from Knives Out, Glass Onion, and Jiminy Cricket from live action Pinocchio.